The Joy Unleashed show empowers and inspires women to reclaim their joy. We provide tools, resources, and connections to help you unlock your true potential through engaging conversations, expert insights, and transformative stories. We create a vibrant and inclusive community where women can break free from the limitations that hold them back. I'm joyologist Coleen Greco, and it is my honor to be your host. Let's get right into the show. If you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you don't quite know your purpose, or maybe you know it, but you just can't find the path toward it. If you're uncomfortable in your own skin and want to finally master self-love, then we need to talk. I'm Coleen Greco, and I'm your joyologist. I help women just like you to reclaim the joy they feel is missing in their life through mindset coaching and nutrition coaching. Whether you have weight to lose or simply need to get your gut in check, I've got you. We'll work together to retire limiting beliefs. Those are the stories that are keeping you from your purpose. I need you to hear me. Those are the stories that we need to get rid of in order to get you on your path to your purpose. We will work together to get you that life you've always dreamed of. It would be my honor to connect with you. Reach out to me via Instagram at @theColleenGreco or email Coleen@ColleenGreco.com. Let's get you back to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Joy Unleashed. I'm your humble host and resident joyologist, Coleen Greco. And today I am so excited to welcome Tabatha Thorell to the stage. Welcome, Tabatha. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me, Coleen.
Yeah, no, I'm glad we could make this work. This is great.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
Why don't you tell the audience, my listeners and viewers, a little bit about yourself so we can get started.
Yeah, I am Tabatha Thorell. I'm an author, coach, speaker, investor, and now newly podcaster. I just launched, technically it's my second podcast, but it's called What Went Wrong? The Untold Stories of Bouncing Back from Failure. So go ahead and check that out. We launched it this year, and it's just been so fun and to interview these amazing entrepreneurs on their journeys from failure to success. I'm also a wife and a mom to 5 beautiful daughters. And yeah, I've been married for 16 years, and my oldest daughter is 14 and my youngest daughter is 1. So life's been pretty crazy.
I have 2 kids, 2 dogs, and a husband, and that's about as much as I can take. So
Yes, and we have 2 dogs. So I even forget to put that in there. So I'm a
why not?
Right? Yeah.
I love it. Well, it's exciting to talk to you today, and we can definitely dive into, I love the topic of your show, so we can definitely dive into that a bit. And of course, how you balance all of the in some cases, conflicting demands on your time. So I would love to chat more about that. But to kick things off, I have to ask my favorite question, of course, because everything goes back to joy. So,
right.
Obviously, what does joy mean to you?
You know, you asked me this question, and it's funny because I think about this question a lot, because there's this debate between joy and happiness. And it's just such a blanket term, like, be happy, you want to be happy. Parents say, I just want my kids to be happy. And happy is so fleeting, but at the same point, it is an emotion, and it's so mainstream that I don't feel like we can just cover that up either and just say happy it is fleeting, or, and so then you go to joy. And my 4th daughter, her middle name is Joy. Her name's Ivy Joy. And we named her that because my 3 older daughters wanted another sibling. So for 3 years, every night, and I'm not kidding you, every night we would pray, and they would be like, God, just make mommy have a baby. You can make her have a baby. Let her have her baby. Want a baby, want a sibling. And they would just beat me down. And I kind of thought it was a phase, but literally for 3 years, I asked my husband, hand on the Bible, it was constantly, they wanted another child. And so I finally surrendered what I thought I could handle and my capacity to handle another child. And I said, okay, God, if you think I can handle this, you have the bird's eye view, allow it to happen. If not, please put it in my daughter's heart to close this chapter, because I cannot handle disappointing them, because I felt like I was disappointing them. And so, we got pregnant with our fourth daughter, and she brought so much joy to our family. And what I mean by that, it wasn't because you all know newborns, we're not sleeping, right? Like there's a lot of, poopy diapers and feedings and all the crazy hurt and heartache, but the suffering per se that you want to say endured because the joy was so much. It's an internal feeling. It's this, even through the pain, you can still see the love, the joy, meaning internally it lights you up. It gives you energy. It just makes you smile. It's something that you can't necessarily put your finger on. You can say all the externals, but the externals can change, and how you feel inside doesn't. And I feel like that's even what like love of a child is, because there's so many challenges to parenting, and there's so many moments of even suffering and hurt and disappointment. But at the end of the day, I look at my child and they can just, say something, or when I really think about who they are, who their character is, it lights me up. And so I think for me, it's that internal light up. You can't necessarily put your finger on it, and things outside can change. But inside, when you really think about it, when you step away from the world, like what lights you up, what gives you that energy, regardless of whatever's going around in the world for you.
Nailed it. Yep. It's absolutely an internal, I guess everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but happiness is definitely external. Yes.
Yes. 100%. Yep.
Got it. At least in Camp Coleen, you do.
And I think, honestly, if people looked really, and they didn't want to just be right or debate you, they would say the same thing, because happiness is fleeting. And we actually, by nature, we resist happiness. We do, because we resist like the self-sabotage and different things. Like we resist things that we know are good for us. And I say this because you would choose an Oreo over broccoli, right? Like you would do those things, even though, because in that moment, it's like that instant happiness, but really long-term wise, we know that broccoli is better for us, right? So like, that is just so fleeting, and there's so many perspectives of what truly makes you happy, because everybody's different. And I think what brings you joy is different, but that internal feeling is the same. Like it's that light up moment. It's that thing you can't explain. It just makes you smile. It just makes you want to go do that thing or be around that person.
It's so funny. And thank you for sharing that. It's so funny that, as you're talking and you're saying the fourth child, you have 5. So you were talking about, can you handle, like, do you have the capacity for a 4?
Yep.
And you just like, are we done? Are we going for number 6? Like, what is this? What's the big plan?
We're done. We're done. And, I think it's not that I don't think I could definitely handle one. What I've learned in the journey of that was like, really, I have to relinquish and surrender, but I also have to be okay and content with what I have, and not trying to outdo myself or prove myself or whatever. And everybody thought we were trying for a boy because we have 5 girls, and it had no bearing. We didn't have number 4 in hopes we'd have a boy. Never. Even my husband. And it like shocks people. They're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, it's not that I didn't want a boy. I would love a boy, but I don't need a boy to feel fulfilled. I don't need a boy to feel like I'm a good mom or whatever. Like whatever fulfillment you thought I was going to get from a boy, that was never the joy. It didn't matter. That was not, I wanted a healthy baby. I wanted healthy because we had some people around us that had lost babies and sick babies. And literally I was like, but I knew that even if my baby wasn't healthy or whatever, normal, that baby would still bring me joy. And so I didn't let that fear stop me, of moving forward. But the capacity, definitely, I feel like it's that rubber band, you think that rubber band can't go anymore, and it does. And then so it can go a little bit more. And that's really what it was for me. It's like we had baby number 4, and there's such a gap between 3 and 4 that I just looked at my husband, and never in our marriage have we ever, like right after had a newborn, said, oh yeah, let's have another one. Like never. And he always says to me when we had our first three, I'd say like, oh, are you ready for another one? And he always would say, if you're ready, because, you know, you're predominantly the stay-at-home mom, you carry the baby, like, you know, I'm on your side, whichever way. Yeah. He always puts it on my shoulders. Right.
Mhm.
And when we had number 4, I told God, I said, okay, is this just hormones, me wanting another one? You know, like the happy hormones, like, oh, the baby's so cute. So if this is your design and you know you will give me what I need and I don't have to worry about it, you need to put it in his heart. Because if I go to my husband and say, hey, baby number 5, when we just had 4 and we weren't sure, you know, is that going to like be crazy? So we were sitting on the bed and I said, hey, what do you think about having another one? And he looked at me and he said, what's one more?
That's awesome.
And I was like, I knew that was a sign from God because he would never say that. Like, that's not my husband's personality. He's not really the like, go with the flow, you know? And so I looked at it and I said, okay, I guess we'll do it. So we, in our planning brains, right, thought we'll wait 6 months, 8 months, and they'll be about a year and a half, 2 years apart. Within 2 months, we were pregnant. So again, it's like, you know, whatever we thought we could handle, it just was given to us on that. So if you're listening and there's something in your life, it may not be a baby, it may be a business, it may be a career choice, going back to school, and you think like, I just can't handle it, I'm not sure, and all that fear, just like surrender that.
Surrender.
And just like put it down and just be like, I might not be able to handle that right now, but the journey to it, there's a reason why it takes 9 or for me, 10 months. My kids are always late, like, to, you know, to have a baby, because if we would have had one right then, I might not have been able to. But because of what I endured, and my 4th pregnancy was probably my hardest, 5th skeletally, but 4th, like emotionally, I was so sick. And it didn't really go away. And I was so tired and like all of those things. But I learned to do a lot of mental work during that time and like prepare myself. And so there's a reason why. So like for you, like if somebody's trying to do this to build a business, you're not going to have $1 million business overnight, but there's a reason. It's to protect you because you couldn't handle that. So, you know, surrender it and then just trust the journey. And that's where the joy can come from. I think for me, that was why I always found joy, even in the challenge and the struggle. Like I literally might be crying on my bathroom floor, but like internally, I still had joy because I knew what was going to come of it, because I trusted it. I trusted the process, even the hard stuff. And I went through some hard stuff. I lost my mom. I lost my sister. My sister was an addict. My mom had an autoimmune disease for 28 of my 30 years that she lived. So, I mean, I can say this through even severe times, not just like, oh, I had a baby or whatever, you know, it's like through those things, I was able to find joy along the way.
Yeah, where you're pulled in multiple directions, and you're also a business owner, right? You said you're
Right.
a real estate investor and all these other, and an author and coach and all these other things. But yeah, you're being pulled in multiple directions, not only by all of your, we'll call them littles, because I don't know what ages they were when all this was happening, but
Right.
all these little people are tugging at you, and then you've got all this either loss or what's leading up to loss. And I can remember that, let's see, it was over Martin Luther King Day weekend. I had my father in the hospital, my mother in the hospital, and my sister in a coma. And so my two other sisters and I were like, okay, you're going to see dad. All right, I'll go see mom. And we would rotate. And it was like, now that was just one weekend. And we lost my mom not too long after that. And my dad went home and my sister went home. But I can remember that weekend being like, I don't know who has my kids. And on some level, I can't even care because I've got to put all my attention on these people.
Right.
So I understand that. But even having joy in those moments where you are stretched so thin, to use your analogy of like the elastic band, like you are somehow given the capacity and you can make it through. And I love that you brought that up.
Yes. Yeah. And you just have to, I think it's a lot of trust, and giving yourself permission.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn to give myself permission to feel joy in moments that society might say that I should not.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that was when we lost my mom, it was, even though she had been sick, because my mom had been sick so long, you just think they're just going to be sick and like still be okay.
Sure.
And I mean, I had my whole life, I'd get calls, mom's in the hospital, blood clot, mom's in the hospital for this. So like for me to get a phone call like mom's in the hospital was not like, you know, other people who have healthy parents, you know, they're in the hospital, even with like a cold and, you know, they're running to the hospital. Oh my gosh, are you okay? You know, for me, that wasn't the thing. So the day that I got the call, even my dad was like, well, mom fell and, you know, she at that time was on oxygen and, you know, they just don't know how long she went without oxygen, but her eyes were open. And so, you know, he just made it sound like it was another time that mom's in the hospital.
Yeah, here we go again.
Right. And so the next day I get a panic call of like, okay, this is different. And of course I go in survival, you know, I'm like, who has the kids? We had 3 kids at the time. My husband it was the beginning of one of his busiest seasons because he's a farmer and he was harvesting, and my daughter had this weird virus that I really wasn't aware of. And I'm trying to figure out all these things. And I go there and in the moments, and so family members come and my mom's laying there on the bed, but we were able to laugh. We were able to tell stories. We were painting my mom's nails. Like I was still able in that moment where we knew that she wasn't going to make it at this time, even though she was coherent, she was on so much ventilation. Like they were like, once we take these machines off, like her body's just not going to be able to do it. And in the pain of like, oh my gosh, my mom, who was like my best friend growing up, I have 4 other siblings, like I was still able to have those moments. And I almost felt guilty for it.
Yeah.
Like I felt like, and I'm not saying that you have to feel the way I felt. You don't have to have you could be devastated and mourn. That is your process. That's your grieving, everything. But what I'm saying is be present in where you're at. And we had family coming in because my siblings live in other areas. And the initial moment, of course, they were like mourning, but then we would tell stories about my mom. And then we'd go home and we'd get out albums and we'd be laughing. And one of our friends came by to bring food and she looked at us and she goes, this is why I love this family. Because you guys, like when you come together, it doesn't matter how long you've been apart because we'd all been apart. They all live in different states. When you come together, it's just natural. There's no like thing, right? And there's definitely stuff. One of my sisters is an addict. Do you think that there wasn't stuff between us siblings? Like we definitely, you know, it wasn't like we were this like abnormal family that just like always feels joy. Like, no, there was definitely stuff, but we were able, I say this because there's still those moments when you can feel that and it's okay. Like, don't feel guilty for it. And some of you might have no idea what I'm talking about, but the people who are listening who are like, I get it.
Yep.
I get it. Like, I felt like that when my, you know, XYZ, even when I lost my, you know, child, I almost felt guilty about feeling joy again or feeling guilty about remembering them in joy because my mourning was so hard. My suffering was so hard that I feel guilt for feeling joy. And I'm here to tell you, it's okay to feel the joy. The joy is what's going to heal the heart. The joy is what healed my heart and in my journey of forgiveness for them and myself. And that was really just understanding that like the guilt is not that's not what it's meant to be. The joy is a gift. God gave me a gift in a very hard time. In a very, very hard time. He gave me that gift. And I'm releasing that for somebody else, that you need to receive it as a gift and not a guilt and move forward.
100%. When I lost my mom, she was in the hospital and she wanted to go home to move on. Right. So she was in my arms when it happened. It was the most magnificent moment. Think about it, right? I was in her arms when I came into the world. I got to help send her on. And it was earlier because it was like 3 a.m, but earlier that morning or later in that morning when it was actual morning, 7, 8 a.m. and it was time to put the message out and the family agreed it should go on Facebook, which I wasn't 100% on board with, but fine.
Right.
And I remember thinking like, I get to decide how to process this. And I'm going to be so thankful for the fact that I had her for 36 years. Not that she's gone, but but that I had her for 36
Yeah.
years. So there are so many people that don't even get that. And she was a phenomenal mother. And a lot of people don't get that. So that's a double win in my book. And so I celebrated that day. I thought that day was one of the best days of my life. Do I wish now at 49 she was still here? 100%. But I don't get to make that call. And
Right.
so being thankful for all of those moments is the way that I chose, because the reality is, and again, to your point, for folks that are listening to this that maybe are about to go through something or have just gone through something, I'll tell you what, the grief is going to come no matter what you do. It finds
Yes.
you, and it finds you when it wants to find you. You don't
Yep.
get to say. So you might as
Yes.
well focus on what you can control, which for me was the gratitude of it and having the
Yep.
joy that I got to be there while she
Exactly.
passed away. And that was such an incredible moment. And then my father was 20 months later. And I remember thinking, I wish I was there. He was in a nursing home, so it was a little bit of a different situation,
Right.
middle of the night and everything. But I was so, so sad that I didn't get that experience with him. So
Right.
how
But
you,
you also get to value even more your experience with your mom. And
Mhm.
that was for me, I was able to forgive my mom. So, and what I mean by that was my mom was sick for a long time, but growing up, she was a phenomenal mother, super nurturing, like I said, was my best friend. And I felt like the last 5 years she was kind of giving up.
Mhm.
Like that was not my mom's personality, but like I just felt like she was becoming the victim. And I put up walls because I didn't want her to give up because I wanted my mom, and so I pushed back, and I was kind of, and I went to her and I knew that she felt like she let me down. And
Yeah.
I was able to lay in bed with her and she was unresponsive verbally, but her eyes spoke volumes. And I was able to lay there and just say, "You are the best.
Yeah.
Thank you. But it's time to go home."
Yeah.
And so many people, don't get that chance. Like you said, they don't get that chance. And I was able to do that even with my sister. I was really the last one that saw her responsive. And as hard as it was, and I'll never forget that moment. And it was very traumatizing the way that it happened. But again, I got to experience, like, we were best friends and the same kind of thing. Like then things happened and it wasn't great. A story for another podcast, but we, I was able to look at her and just be like, eye to eye, it just the soul touching of that moment in such pain, in such heartache and I think that's what the joy is. It's like, because death is going to happen as hard as it is. And we just had a friend that lost their daughter and she's only like a few days younger than our almost to be 3-year-old, and her birthday's coming up and my heart just pains for her because I know she's hurting. She was taken abruptly. It was a horrible thing. And it's hard. Like death is hard, but it is the one thing that we can guarantee being on earth. Like you're going to die. And so if you don't choose joy in those moments, again, like you said, grief's going to come, sadness is going to come, anger is going to come, resentment's going to come. It is part of the grieving process, but joy can come too. And I feel like that's a choice. Like the other things come, whether
Mhm.
you like it or not in death, like it's just human, but
Yeah.
we get to choose joy. And it's not talked about, especially in grieving. What's joy? It's like, that's almost like guilty thing. Like I'm not supposed to feel joyful that that person died. Who am I? I'm not compassionate. I'm not happy they died, but my mom suffered for so long. My sister suffered for so long that for me in that moment, now you might be saying, and I don't know your parents, but somebody who like was in a car accident. Well, but we don't know what they were going to endure. We don't know we don't have the bird's eye view, and so stop thinking everything and say,
Yep.
maybe this was a blessing because they were going to go through even more suffering on earth. And, God chose to take them. We don't know their purpose on earth. We just know that we had them and we get to choose how we perceive that and take it as joy, like you said, or be angry and bitter and guilty and shameful and live a life of suffering. Like we can choose that as well.
Beautiful point. You're talking about all of these, you have so many, I guess, facets to Tabitha, right? If you're a
Yeah.
business owner and a mom and a wife and all these, all the labels.
Yep.
How do you keep it all straight? How do you, keep yourself grounded in joy with all of the, I would think, constant demands on your time and energy?
Well, first I found the things that truly bring me joy and the things that don't. And I learned to say no.
Almost a more important list, by the way, the things that don't. It's like, I need to get
Right.
rid of those. Yes.
I learned to say no to those and learn to, stop for the most part. I'm not saying I'm perfect in that area yet, but learning to say no to those things that don't bring me joy, focusing on the things that do, realizing it is a choice and it's internal. And that, so like for me, speaking, training brings me joy, but I'm not going to do that 24/7, right? Like that's not something, and I'd probably be so depleted of energy. But there are things that I put throughout my week. Like I know I have to train, coach, speak throughout the day. If I go a whole week or two, especially, I'm irritable. I'm
Mm.
like, it's like a lion in a cage. Like I'm supposed to go out and hunt and like, I'm not. And like, it's like, it's intrinsic. It's like, what's happening? Right. So like, I learned those things because when I was what I call like the mom of three, I did a lot of fitness and nutrition and learning and growing in that and transformation of the mind. And I loved learning those things and doing those things. And I was coaching people, but I was always doing it in this push way. Like I have to make the finances. I have to do these things and I have to take this and da, 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 and I have to. And now it's like, stop. What truly brings me joy? What's going to help up level my health, my wealth, my relationships? Looking at those things in a non-judgmental way. Like if I don't do that, I'm not judging myself saying I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty, I'm,
Mhm.
weak, whatever. Taking that, forgiving myself in the areas that I fail, like, which is daily, forgiving other people and truly looking at it in a grace mentality. Because when you can release it, when you can forgive and have grace and compassion, I feel like joy is just there
Mhm.
because you see it. And I just started this, and I know you're probably going to ask me at the end, but I used to journal a lot. And before baby number 4, I journaled a lot. And then we had baby number 4, and she's almost 3, struggles with sleeping through the night. So you can imagine with baby number 5, not sleeping through the night, baby number 4. So a lot of times my journal time was in the morning. Well, now like our mornings are just erratic. Like this just kind of crazy. So I kind of got out of it. But one thing I always stood true is I would always like verbally talk in the shower. Like I'm a very communicator to God in my soul. I'll talk out loud. My kids know, like, it's not even embarrassing or weird. Like I'll be like talking to God in the house, like in the kitchen and whatever. And so I always had like this verbal because I knew if I got it out, it wasn't in my head. Because
Mhm.
when stuff is in my head, I get really frustrated and irritated and my perception's very small. And when I can just like say it out loud, then I can get it out. But
Yep.
one thing that I started doing this week, and I really want to continue this because I feel like it can fit into my schedule. It only takes a few minutes. And even if it's one thing, but someone said, I want you to look at your day and just find even one miracle, just one. And it could be that you thought the miracle was the parking spot was close to the store, or somebody made a comment to you and it really meant a lot. Like it solidified or validated something that you were like on the fence about. Somebody saying something like, man, you're a really good speaker. And you are wondering if you should speak, or something like one little thing. And if there's multiple, put multiple, but even just daily looking at it like a miracle. And if you've ever seen the movie Heaven or Miracles from Heaven, she quotes somebody, I can't remember who she quotes, but the quote says, you have a choice. You can look at every day as everything as a miracle or nothing as a miracle.
Mhm.
So looking at even a challenge or a struggle or even a death, as that is a miracle, there's a miracle there. And viewing that in that way, or people say a positive mindset, there's different ways, perceiving things in a different way that, the universe is doing stuff for you, not against you. Looking at things in that way is really how I can balance it because I'm mom, I'm wife, and I'm wife before I'm a mom. So
Mhm.
if I am being short tempered with my husband, not showing him love, putting him on the back burner, then why am I doing all the other things? Because I truly believe being a wife for me is number one. And not because I need him, not a codependency. It's just that is my belief pattern. I feel like when marriages are strong, then everything else is stronger.
Yeah.
And so if I'm depleted there, then what's the point? Or if I'm depleted as a mom, why am I chasing my dream to make my family better if I'm just a horrible mom along the way? And so checking myself, self-awareness, and saying, why am I doing what I'm doing? And sharing with my kids, like, I'm working because XYZ. Like, I'm doing these things because of XYZ. And I think that's what keeps me AKA balanced, because I know the things that bring me joy. I know the things that don't. Like, I don't particularly love to clean because I am a perfectionist. So
That is
when I
so
start,
abnormal.
I have friends. My sister loves to clean. It relaxes her. I have another friend. It literally is like what she does to relax. It's weird. I don't know. I don't think it. But for me, I'm a perfectionist. So like if I start cleaning my bathroom, I am like dissecting the
In
bathroom.
the corner, like
Yes. And it's like 3 hours later, my kids are starving. I forgot to feed the dog. They peed on the floor. Like, I mean, I am like in it. I'm like all or nothing. Right. So like for cleaning for me, it just puts me in a bad mood. So I had to really put some of my beliefs away of like what it meant to hire like a maid or like someone to come in and help. Cause I kind of felt like I should be able to do it all. And my mom cleaned the house and my sister cleans the house and I should be able to clean the house, right? I'm a stay-at-home mom and all these things. And I had to really put away like what that meant for me because it did not bring me joy.
right.
Now,
And then there's just like the slight twist of sorry to interrupt, but like I want to
yeah,
also share this for those that are listening that the tiny shift is yes, you can do it. So can I. I can also do handstands. I can do lots of things, right?
yeah,
But now you're denying somebody else possibly some income, right? Like there are
yes.
you could
And
be
that's how I
helping
had to
somebody
look
else.
at it. And
Yeah.
even bringing in a nanny, we had to bring in a nanny this year. And I've never had that. But I said, if we're going to take our business to the next level, like I have to have help. And
Mhm.
I did a lot of searching. It wasn't like, oh, I just decided and then I just looked on, Craigslist or whatever and found somebody. It was months of finding somebody and actually asking someone, them telling me no because they had a prior thing, surrendering it and saying, okay, well, if this is meant to be, God, like you have to help me because I'm not just going to trust anybody. I'm just going to take them somewhere and drop them off. And circumstances changed and she was able to come work for us, and she cleans and she does laundry and she helps she is amazing, and she's so grateful because we were able to pay her more than her other employer, and she and so I'm helping her life, like she's thankful for us and I'm thankful for her. And so I was able to do that, and I even think that in my business, I tried to do it all instead of releasing money into the atmosphere, hiring somebody that could help them. My VA, she thanks me almost daily because she's like, you've helped my family so much because, they're in the Philippines. And she's like, you're such a good boss to work with, and stuff like that. Not kudos to me, like I'm so awesome, but I was able to relinquish and surrender some of the things that weren't bringing me joy. Like
Mhm.
I literally, it's the book, The Who Not the How by Benjamin Hardy. Like it's awesome. Dan Kennedy, it's all his works. But like I had to literally be like, who can help me?
Mhm.
Because this does not bring me joy. When I come home from work, I want to be with my babies. I want to play with them. I want to even just cook for them. I want to dance around with them, or I want to sit on the couch with them. I don't want to feel like I have to do all these other things
Yeah.
because those steal my joy. Well, I have to earn income so that I can employ these people, And so it's a process. It's like doing those things. And how can I do that? Well, I have been blessed to learn all these talents and these skills. So how can I coach and teach this to other people to up-level their life so that they can be better people and find more joy?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I want to also make sure that we spend a few minutes on what your businesses are so we can promote
Yes.
you. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your show. What went wrong? Bouncing back from failure.
Yes, that is our new podcast that we launched this year. And it's a combination of me interviewing a lot of entrepreneurs is really my focus, but their stories really hit on, even if you're not, because what it is that it's a story where they were really about to give up. Like it was a failure. The word failure brings up a lot of emotions to people. Some of it is like they were super successful and then they became addicts. and then
Mhm.
how they came out of that, and then what success to them is now, and how they were able to overcome that and work through the challenge. It's really about giving people hope, like no matter where you are in your life, connecting like that you're not alone, that, you know, other people have even worse, or, you know, whatever the circumstances, and then how they got out of it. And so it's training in the stories, and it's really beautiful. And then I also share stories of, you know, famous people or famous entrepreneurs. Like I'm recording one about HJ Heinz. So like Heinz condiments, and like what he went through and his story, but also his innovation mindset and things like that. I have a couple other ones where it's like accidental successes, because some of you are working on a project or a service and you think it failed because it wasn't what you thought, but it's going to be the thing that's going to be the thing that gets you to where you want to be. And that's
Yeah.
stories of like the Dyson vacuum, and even YouTube. YouTube was not created for what we use it for today. So just different stories like that. Like what I call the party facts. When you go to a party and you have a cool fact for people, you can listen to the podcast and get those. So that's the podcast.
Love it.
And then I coach. So right now I am currently working on helping people storytell to sell more of their products and services. But my husband and I are launching a project that I'm super excited about. And it's been 4 years in the making. It's one of those things that, you know, we should have done it 4 years ago, but we had 2 babies instead. That's kind of what I tell people. We birthed 2 babies and the business along the way. But we have been real estate investors for almost 2 decades. We started in college together. And it is one of those things that we knew could change our family's future. We didn't really know exactly how it was going to do that. We just trusted it. And so we just bought income properties. And my husband had been doing it since he was about 15, because his dad bought properties and he helped manage them, renovate them, those type of things. So he kind of had some background in it. And I just love to make things pretty. So we just go in and we renovate these homes, and I work with the people and like, hey, get these tenants and stuff. And that was kind of how we started. And then we learned like, this is going to be, you know, what our kids learn, and we want to bring them in. And so they would start coming with us to, you know, renovate homes and properties. And we tell them, you know, we teach them about, you can have a car, or you can have a house. And when you have a house, you can have people to pay you to live there. And, you know, we just teach them different things. And so we're starting this program where you buy your first income property. So if you're someone who's like, I've always wanted to buy real estate, but I've just never known, and there's all this free stuff on the internet, and where do I get it? And how do I get money? And I don't, you know, all the ins and outs. And so we help you buy your first income property. But then beyond that, we want to bring the family. This is where the family legacy comes in. How do you teach your kids? Because you're growing this wealth, but statistics show by 3rd generation, 90% of wealth is gone. So how can you teach it so it goes beyond generation, and your kids can be self-sustaining, not because what you want them to do, but because it's what they want to do. And so we mastermind with them as family and give different trainings and different facets of it. So it's like, we help you get this income property and beyond, because it just starts there. But then how can we help grow your family? So for legacies to come, the wealth that you're building as a business owner or entrepreneur, it grows passively, and then it's kept beyond just you.
I love it. I think that's awesome. So how can people get a hold of you so they can learn more?
So if you are interested in the Family Legacy Project, the best way you can do is go to Instagram, Tab Thorell, DM me. I tell people, they're like, oh, I want to book a call. I want to DM me. I want to talk to you first to see if this is something that's really for you. Or you can DM me on Facebook. Okay. So our public page is Fierce Coaching and Consulting, or Tabitha Thorell. Direct message me there, and just put Family Legacy Project or family, like anything that relates to that. I'll know exactly what you mean with that, because I want to talk with you first and see if this is, you know, and especially if you're someone who's like, I have been interested in an income property, but I don't necessarily have a family yet. Still connect with us, because our main project is to get people to buy their first income property and then keep it beyond that. So let's first get you the property. So Instagram, Facebook, and then tabthorell.com is going to have a link or more information on that you can go there and you can find it. Right now it's up. It's not quite there yet. So that's why I'm telling people to direct message me, because we're launching it in March. It's still developing exactly how we want to deliver, because we want people to buy the houses. We don't want to just give them a course. There's a lot of free stuff. I can tell you exactly what to do. But if you don't have that accountability, if you don't have that coaching, that consulting, you're going to feel uncertain because it's a big purchase and it's scary. And we want to help you get that within 90 days. So you can start having cash flow positive and being, that kind of landlord that you really want, which is making money. You don't want to be in the negative. So that is something that we want to do. So direct message me there. That's the best way you can get a hold of us.
I love it. Tabatha, this has been an awesome episode. Thank you so much for joining. Any parting thoughts, Joy or otherwise, before we let you go?
I think that, honestly, I think we've said it, but I'll say it again. Don't let joy be a guilt for you wherever you're at in your life. Let it just come from inside. Dancing brings me joy. So when I get frustrated or angry, or I'll just smile for no reason, and it overcomes me. So if you're stressed, if you're a mom and you have those moments where you're running around and get in the car, you lost a shoe, whatever, find something, even if it's a smile, even if it's a song, that external to really bring that internal joy, because you deserve to be joyful. Don't hide it. Don't feel guilty. For a long time, I felt guilty for being in joy. I wasn't going to get success if I was in joy mode. And don't be like me. Find that joy that's truly inside of you. And it's going to look differently, but that's okay, because your joy is you, and it's personal and it's internal, and it's just meant to be shared in the beautiful person that you are.
I love it. Thank you so much. We'll have all of the links in the show notes. I'll also include a link that goes to an ebook that I wrote called Joy in the Smallest of Moments, because I think it's really relative to our conversation today.
Yeah.
Tabatha, thank you so much for being on.
You're welcome. Thank you, Coleen.
And that was our latest episode of Joy Unleashed. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. So today's joy tip of the day really stems from the conversation that we just had with Tabatha, where we were talking about joy in the smallest of moments, and joy when maybe things in your life aren't going the way that you wanted them to. You're going through a stressful time or a time of grief, but you can still have joy. You can still have that inner peace, that inner light, where, you get really present with yourself. You can take yourself for a walk. And if you don't personally feel joy, how can you look at things that other people are doing? Or I like to always talk about when I take my dogs for a walk, sometimes I'll kind of channel into their energy, and, they're off trying to play with some bird or something in the woods that I can't see, and they're being really silly. And I just it just lights me up when I see them be themselves and really truly have that inner peace. So don't overthink it. Don't shame yourself for it, but really get really small with your world and think about how you can light yourself up. Thank you for tuning in to Joy Unleashed. As always, it's my honor to be your host and joyologist, Coleen Greco. Follow me at the Coleen Greco on Instagram for daily motivation and inspiration. And don't forget to leave my show a review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, sisters.